Alright, hello fellows, it is I, TheSecondFlock, and we're back. And I say back after a many year pause and a bunch of inconsistent videos, so, hello. Hopefully you saw my most recent video. It's a meme related to the content of what we're diving into today. So we're going to be looking at a vassal log for IACP. And just in case there's some audience members that are coming from outside of that community, there's a Star Wars board game that's really fun called Imperial Assault. And I've been in its competitive online community for the better part of a year now. And they play their games on a system called Vassal. It's a free downloadable software. You can download a mod for it that lets you play different games. The one we use is the one for Imperial Assault. And Imperial Assault as a board game had many expansions and competitive online in-person tournaments. Around the time COVID hit in 2019, the game was also wrapping up with expansions and has been officially marked as complete by the company that created it. However, there's an online passionate community who created a community called the Imperial Assault Continuity Project, and they work on releasing updates to balance the game as well as add in new figures. So, there is another YouTuber you may know of if you're from that community, IA Command, or TV Boy as the man who runs that channel goes by online. He does a lot of these videos here, what we're going to be looking at today, which is a Vassal game log. So in Vassal you can store and save your videos, or your gameplay rather, and it saves it piece by piece, action by action. And you can review those later on. I'm going to be reviewing a game I played, a casual match in the Season 7 meta against an opponent, Herbie. And, instead of bringing up this as a potential candidate for that channel, I thought I may as well record my own video here, give my own thoughts of what was going through my head throughout the game. And I do appear on the IA Command podcast videos that are released almost weekly over on that channel, so if you want to take a look and head over there, go ahead. But we're going to dive into this. I do remember a comment from TV Boy during one of the videos that it would be nice to have some competition, and I do think this is the kind of community that can use as much love as it gets. So I do hope that this imitation of his video style here is taken as a form of flattery instead of a petty attempt at plagiarism or anything like that. I just thought it'd be fun to review some of my own logs. If you do have some logs that you have liked and want to submit to either TV Boy or myself to review, please go ahead. But like I said, for this first one, I just wanted to go through a game I had played and post that on the channel. Now, originally I had hinted towards posting some content. I was actually just talking about a separate, shorter, meme-based video for the Star Wars community that's already up on my channel. Please go ahead and check that out. That took a lot more effort to make than this will have, I am pretty sure. But if I make more of these, I might put some more effort into the layout and how things are going to look and everything like that. This game has inspired me a little bit to get into content creation, so I'm glad for that so far. Now, getting into the current game here, Herbie, we can see, is running a few troopers on the Rebel faction here. Now, the most interesting of note one here, I think I'm going to practice these controls, but I've already dragged it over here. So he is running the Rebel ATRT. This is a massive figure. It's the only massive figure in Rebel faction, I believe. It is a trooper as well as a vehicle. And we did see over on the IA Command channel another player running one of these, and TV Boy noted during that log review that it was nice to see because we don't see this figure get ran a lot. And when we get into the actual gameplay that goes on here, you're going to see how that kind of turns against me a little bit. So I'm going to move forward here through the log a little bit and get to the point where we start seeing me deploy units. So yeah, we're going to start taking a look as I make my deployment decisions here. Herbie ran with initiative and he goes first. Now, as I was saying about the ATRT, this figure you can see in the bottom left, it's the biggest thing that are that are available in the Rebel faction. Now, the video log on IA Command's channel decided to, that player had decided to roll the ATRT with Luke Skywalker. I can't recall which of the two in the game that he used, but he ran with a couple of Echo-based troopers, which are non-unique figures that come in 2 to a 7-point figure piece. However, Herbie here today decided to pair up his ATRT with a couple of the stronger single trooper cards in IA. So we have here Fen Cygnus, 7-point card in IACP, and Kotun Faralo, who also is a 7-point card. So Kotun does see a lot of play as a support figure, but what's interesting is while on the IA Command channel there was a log with a lot of non-uniques or generic figures going up against an opposing list, I was going up against some Rebel uniques to the point where I think you could even say that this list, the ATRT being a 8-point single figure, is not technically unique, but it is, a single figure of the power value and threat value of a non-unique figure. So it felt like I was going up against 3 or 4 heavy hitters versus a swarm of smaller guys, which changes the way that the dynamics of the match kind of work out here. Lastly, over here we have my opponent playing Cassian Andor. Now, this guy is a spy leader. He's not a trooper in any sense, and I see what Herbie was trying to do, as we'll get into the opening gambit he does, the opening combo he works out. Cassian, in general, has 2 abilities. His first works at the start of the game. So after Herbie deploys, we're going to see here, he'll be allowed to move himself and an adjacent friendly figure to get 2 movement points. And then up to 4 figures that are outside of the deployment zone each gain 1 power token for damage. Now it's good, a little free movement at the beginning of the game paired with a little power. Now the question is, because Cassian only moves figures 1 space and he only moves 2 of them, how is Herbie here going to get 4 power tokens spread out to his figures? Well, a classic combo here is to also work with Hera Syndulla. She has an ability, Smooth Landing. After deployment, you and each adjacent friendly figure move 1 space. So by having Hera activate first, because both of these abilities trigger at the same time, you're going to see Herbie winds up moving his figures a little bit and then having Cassian move them a little further. And I will see how he decides to pull off that maneuver in a minute here. Now, over on the red corner, where I am playing and deploying as we speak, we see me moving forward with trying to finish up my deployments. Now, I think one of the most interesting things here is I definitely made some mistakes in this game. Starting with the ATRT. So I'm looking at this guy, and there are not too many 2x2 figures in the game. We have a number of 3x2 massive figures in the game, and then we have a number of 1x2 figures, like Captain Taro or the E-Web Engineer, and the giant massive figures being like the Rancor or the ATST. ATRT is a bit of an oddity, though, because I think there are only a total of 3 2x2 figures in the game, and as you can see on my side of the map, we have Jabba the Hutt in the corner here. Very popular Scum support figure. He's just so big, he sits there. And Jabba only has a whopping 2 speed, which means he only moves 2 squares with a movement action, versus the standard in this game, which is 4, and then the ATRT, which is allowed to move 5. Now, being used to seeing Jabba here, I called out in the beginning of the game that this was a massive, the ATRT, but I kind of forgot what that meant, and I wind up making some huge mistakes here. You see, I threw Shyla and Mara Jade up in the right corner on the right side. It probably would have been better for me to put them over on the left area and kind of go the bottom way and react to my opponent rather than trying to spring forward as much as I did. We'll get into it a little bit, but I definitely made some positioning mistakes early in this game. But moving forward, we see that Fen is starting to move out of the deployment zone, and he's doing this with Hera's ability. So R2 decides to move down 1, C-3PO moving up 1, the AT-RT moving 1. And then I guess Khotun decided not to move, but now we see Cassian moving forward a little bit. Moving up to those, I guess he gets 2 spaces. Yep, they get 2 movement points, so he's moving up Cassian 2 right up to the door before anyone has begun moving, and Fen is able to do the same. And afterwards, we see the ATRT, Fen, and Cassian each getting a power token. Now, I think this is a great combo. I think Herbie did miss out on 1 movement point here, or 1 power token here. If he had maybe started with Khotun a space further down, maybe Khotun or maybe had Khotun move with that first movement point to where C-3PO was, or something. I feel like there's a way where maybe Fen could have been a couple spaces further back and Khotun could have moved up and gotten the power token. If Khotun had started here, Hera over here, Fen and Cassian, or maybe we had Hera here, Fen and Cassian and Khotun. Hera could have moved the 3 of them up to here, and then could have had Cassian move out Khotun and Cassian himself up to the door. Fen would have stayed a few spaces behind, but he would have been out of the deployment zone, and all of his big attackers could have gotten that power token. At least I think so. I know Herbie was trying to mention he was trying to practice this combo. But those are the pre-deployment abilities. I don't think I was really running any myself. But we can take a quick look at the list I was running here. So, as Herbie had 4 main attackers in his list, so did I. I had Shyla Vrod from, I don't know what season, but she was from the Jabba's Realm expansion and got updated in one of the seasons to have a lower cost and possibly some upgraded stats here. She's able to pull opponents closer to her with a whip. She's got some high defenses for her points. And then we have, let's see, where is he? Taron Malicos as my second main attacker here. So this is a Season 7 new card. For 6 points, he's a Force user that is able to get an extra surge on attacks. He starts to go mad. He's from the Fallen Order video game, which this game is almost inspiring me to actually go and play. But apparently he goes mad in the game, and as a result of that, he has an ability Madness where he can focus himself and strain himself if you run low on command cards in your hand. So if you play a very aggressive style, you can get low, and then when he activates, get him even stronger at the cost of his sanity. Then we have a fan favorite, Maul here, with the Darksaber. Darksaber and IACP allowing him to attack a second time. And the great thing we're going to see in this match about Maul in almost every match is that he's slow and is easy to pick off, but he is very strong, and if he gets up to you, he can put a real pounding into the opponent. And you add that up with his Sustained by Rage, which basically means he cannot heal, but he also is not allowed to die until he takes his turn, which is kind of insane. And then, of course, no Force user list in Scum or even in Empire would be complete without Mara Jade. Playing all the different sides, all the different factions, but also hitting like a truck, hitting like someone, a little kid that takes his little figure, brings it up next to your figure and just smacks it off the field, off the table, and lets it smash onto the ground with the force of Mara's double red blue attack, especially when focused. But we can move back into moving forward. I think everyone here is ready to go. The mission we're playing is down here in the bottom. We have Concealed Treasures. So there are 4 doors, none of them are locked, but at the end of each round, each player will open a door. And there are a total of 8 crates around the map. Each one can be picked up with an action and brought back to the stash. And the stash doesn't take an action, but the second day figure appears next to either stash. They drop off the crate that they're holding and automatically score 4 victory points. So on Herbie's side, we see him moving up to the terminal, getting a command card in hand. Then we have him activating C-3PO, so I assume this is where I passed. Good to note that I'm running 7 activations, and it looks like Herbie is running a total of 8 here. So C-3PO going to run up behind R2 and give Fen a focus. And then we have, looks like Herbie, no, it looks like me, activating Jabba the Hutt. Or it might be Bib Fortuna I'm activating here, as I do get off the planning ability. And it looks like Shyla has been focused. I'm not sure if that was Jabba or Bib that I went with there. Looks like I'm also somehow getting off 2 activations in a row here, so that's not sure how I did that, but fine. Yeah, it looks like I got off planning, there was no negation played, and got 5 cards in hand plus planning 6, so it does look like I activated both Jabba and Bib while he was activating C-3PO and R2. So not sure if a pass has come into play yet, but as you can see, Mara and Shyla, I feel as my biggest attackers at this point, are both focused. So Herbie activating with the AT-RT early on, and no, I'm sorry, having Gideon activate and focusing the AT-RT, and with that line of sight moving him up 2 spaces into an open area. And this is where I go with Dr. Aphra and just kind of put her up to the door and open it. Now this is where I should have realized I had messed up. So going back to the AT-RT, this guy is a massive figure. And like I had mentioned earlier, I had just been used to Jabba the Hutt being the game's premier 2x2 figure. There's also the Nexu, but I've not seen that a lot, and the Nexu has mobile. The AT-RT, I had thought, had 5 movement, and just didn't think about it. But he could move fast, but I thought he would be caught on this. I thought that he couldn't move past this. And a lot of my round 1 positioning was based on the idea that he can't move past this. However, being a massive figure, he can ignore blocking terrain, just walk straight through it. He can also ignore line of sight to figures, so figures are kind of overlapping each other and blocking each other. He can ignore that and just shoot through them. And I wind up stacking a bunch of figures here, as you can see, starting with Aphra. Once I realize that he can get a shot off through this area here, I kind of throw in some figures. I don't mind too much if they get shot, and put them on defense here. Not realizing that, had Herbie wanted to, he could definitely just shoot straight through them. So this is where I made a huge mistake, sending up Aphra, opening the door, walking back. Maybe from Herbie's perspective, I'm trying to bait him into sending the AT-RT much forward so that I can get off some melee hits. And I am trying to bait a little bit here. I think what I do is I throw up Terran Malicos. Looks like I threw a boulder at the AT-RT. That's one of Terran's abilities. So he is Boulder Barrage as an action. He chooses a space in his line of sight, throws a boulder at it, anyone on the space takes damage, and then he creates a difficult terrain token next to it. And again, at this point, I think I throw up Terran here, and I think that's going to slow the AT-RT down, not realizing that he is, again, a massive figure. And so I kind of throw up Maul as well. Let's see, my opponent is over at the top using some more of his support figures. He finally goes with Cassian. Looks like Kotun already went and did some support tactics. Cassian going to open up that door on the top and kind of move back into the deployment zone to play him safe. So I, running low on different people to activate, decide to go with Mara here. Just trying to decide where to best put her. And I think at this point I had realized the AT-RT was massive. Or maybe I hadn't yet, because I wound up putting Mara behind that blocking square. And this is where Herbie goes with the AT-RT. And definitely by this point well, we see the first attack of the game. The AT-RT goes forward, it fires a massive shot while focused, and we see 4 die come out. Now, the AT-RT has an effect to... hate that glitch. Alright. AT-RT has an effect to get a free reroll if it moved out of its space before it attacked, and it could have replaced one of its die with a red attack die if it had attacked someone within 3 spaces of it. So for some reason, he goes for the range shot. I think at this point I still hadn't realized that he was a massive that could just move over things. Because Mara Jade, he could have just taken the other step forward, shot at Mara, and moved away. Maybe he was afraid of a parting blow. But he could have done that with an extra red dice if he had wanted to. And what are we doing here? Yeah, it looks like Maul taking damage for this. So this is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage, pierce 2. So it looks like Maul going to take 7 damage right off the bat. He's over halfway to defeated. The ATRT going to move back. I think this is where I called out, hey, he moved through difficult terrain, he shouldn't have too much movement, and then that's probably when Herbie said he's massive. And that's when I realized I had exposed everyone, and everyone was attainable by this ATRT. And this is when I realized my last figure, Shyla, is literally sitting in the back, far away from everyone, and not in a good space. I think I'd throw her up here, pick up a crate, and attempt to protect the people behind her from Fen, thinking that she can take a few shots until her next turn. Herbie, having the door already opened, goes for Fen, and taking a shot at Shyla here, who is, again, in a position that is not very optimal, considering the ATRT could just run on over there and shoot past her anyways. So Shyla up there, though, meant to take a hit. Hopefully she can go first next round with initiative coming to myself. But Fen rolls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage, and let's pull up Fen real quick. So 5 damage, he's got Pierce 1, but there's no blocks rolled here. He can Surge for the Blast 1, and that's basically all he's going to be able to get. So if we see how this moves forward... Oh, I forgot Shyla's defense die. Okay. So Fen does have a Pierce 1, and that matters here. So it looks like 4 are going to get across. Looks like a reroll coming in. This is from Khotun's ability to apply rerolls to people that spend power tokens on the attack. So this turns into a 6 damage Pierce 1 with Blast 1. Looks like we have an Officer's Training coming in to reroll the blue, which is going to result in an additional... Surge, but that's not going to matter here. Fen doesn't have too many good surges. But Herbie going to draw that extra card. Let's see. It looks like we have Hera using Call the Shots to add an extra damage. So, yep, Maul going to take 1 point of blast damage here, and Shyla going to take 7 damage. Whew. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 7 damage. Fen really pumped that up from what it originally was going to be. 8. I don't know where the extra Pierce comes from. Oh, Fen spends a strain here for his other ability, Havoc Shot, to deal 1 damage to Shyla after the attack. So 7 going up to 8. Looks like that is the end of the round. We do get into a little rules question here. Fen wants to Havoc Shot, which lets him deal a damage to up to 2 figures after an attack he does by spending a strain. However, the figures need to be in his line of sight. So Shyla here is actually in a good blocking position to make sure that Maul, Terran, Afra, none of those figures can be targeted by Havoc Shot. So Havoc Shot only getting half value here. So we're both drawing 2 cards for turn. 2 of the doors open automatically. I think we'd already opened the other 2 round 1s. We're going into round 2. All the doors now going to be open. Now, we're going to have initiative. Let's see. There's a Force Rush being played. I think this is being... I think this might be being excavated here. Oh no, this is being revealed with Black Market. Alright, so Black Market activating, Jabba the Hutt taking a strain to reveal the top card of the deck, which was Force Rush. And Black Market here being able to put a card to the top of a player's deck. You reveal it at the end of the round, and then you can either buy it for its command card cost, Force Rush being 0 points. So I was able to buy that for 0 VPs, put it in the hand. Otherwise, I could have sold it and put it in the discard pile to get that many VPs, which again, with that card would have been 0. or put it back on top of the deck if I didn't like either option. So initiative going to me, but Herbie going with a starter round, he's going to play Covering Fire, which I remember at this point I was thinking, okay, that's a good card. I am just glad that that was not take initiative, because Shyla's going to need that to close the deal and maybe get some big damage on Fen before she gets hurt. But Fen going to get hidden, Khotun and the ATRT going to get hidden as well. And then call the Vanguard. So Fen going to get this extra attack anyways, might be spelling Doom for Shyla here. We see the other power token being played, but then of course we clear dice. So we get that power token played. There's a hidden in play as well. And I think we also need to apply the extra evade from Shyla, so really those cancel out. Yep, there they go. A reroll from Khotun's ability to give anyone within 3 spaces spending a power token a reroll. We can look that up because that does come up a few times this game. So that is her dead precise. When a figure within 3, she basically gives up power tokens throughout the game. And then anytime spends any power token from any source within 3 spaces of her, and they're an ally, they get 1 reroll for the attack, which is nice. And they also get a -1 dodge to the defense results. So she's really good at helping you deal with white die figures. But after the reroll, Fen going to be at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage and Pierce 1. And I think no matter which way... Oops. Need to get used to these controls here. But I think no matter which way we slice it here... looks like we have Hera adding a call the shots to this for an extra damage. But I think regardless here, Shyla is negating 2 of the surges. Just gonna bring her up to a full 12 damage. Gonna take her out. Crate goes back on the fields. And then I think we talk about a Havoc shot here. So Maul gonna take another damage, but I believe that's from the blast. And with that, Shyla gone. Fen going to retreat back towards the deployment zone, and Herbie going to grab 7 victory points from Shyla. So already I've lost one of my 4 big attackers. That was not a very good end of round start of round for me, but great for Herbie. He's got everyone back pretty far away from my melee units, so I need to make a big play here. Let's see, he's rearranging, and then I decide to go with Shyla. I'm trying to decide which way to bring her. I decide to, before anything else, looking for a fight. So this is a card that combos good with Parting Blow, but at this point I don't think I had it in hand, so I wasn't looking to use it like that. Basically gives you power point and an extra movement, and I think what I was trying to do is move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... move right up to the ATRT around here, and then spend the extra movement point, I think, to get there. 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, move maybe here, attack the ATRT, move the 5th point, and then I'm thinking I'll move a 6th point into cover. The second I'm done with the attack, so my opponent has to overextend to try to get to Mara if they want to take her out. So Mara, again, going to move out. The reason I played the 0-point card first is because I both want that movement point and the power token. But I want to do this before I commit to diving into the ATRT, and I need to know that my opponent's not going to negate this after I move. Luckily, Herbie, I recall he thought about it for a moment, but he decided not to negate or not to do anything. Of course, that gave me a pretty good idea that negate was in his hand. So I use that information for later. You'll see that come up in a little bit. So I go up the 4 spaces, declare the attack on the ATRT, throw in an element of surprise, so they're not going to be able to dodge this, or yeah, they're going to lose their defense die. The ATRT rolling with just the 1 and 8 defense, spending that power token, just throwing everything in this attack. So yeah, not getting the greatest roll. I decided to re-roll the green. I think because I knew I had enough surges, I just wanted to get some more damage and didn't want to roll less on the red. So I flipped to the damage surge side. I'm doing 2, 4, 5, 6 damage. Pierce 3 with a surge. We can pull up Mara. but definitely not an anemic roll, but also not one of her best. So far this is looking like, again with her power here, search for +2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 damage, pierce 3. And to say that that's not her best roll just goes to show that she hits like a truck. This ATRT, I think its max health is, I'm not quite sure what its max health is. Alright, 13. So Mara's looking to do 8 to it right now and bring it up to 10 with only 3 health remaining. So then I decide that it's time to play card in hand. I use her Fast Learner ability to play Blade Storm. Now this is Shyla's personal command card, and Mara Jade, having the ability Fast Learner, can use a command card of any other person in the army, as long as, of course, as she meets the requirements. Blade Storm is not a card I see being played too often, especially because we don't see Shyla that often, but when we do, I don't see Blade Storm. Blade Storm seems really good on face value. It adds a surge to an attack, which when you use it on someone like Mara, who has great surges but typically won't roll as many as you want, that's great. And then on Shyla, she has 3 surges, and if they're all pretty good, so she would like the surge. And then it adds a damage to every figure within 2 spaces of the target after the attack. Now, if the ATRT was maybe more centered in Herbie's army, I think this could have done a lot more splash damage. In fact, I think I considered diving into either Fen or Hera, try to take out an activation, and then get a lot of splash damage out. I decided against it because I thought getting this big... I didn't want this big ATRT dumping a huge attack into me right after this. I figured he needed to be taken out. He was worth 8 VPs. In this case, the extra surge isn't going to do much. I'm already getting the +2 and the pierce 3. So this is basically adding an extra damage after the attack. So we're going to see the ATRT go up to 10, damage 8 from the attack, 1 more from Blade Storm afterwards. With Shyla already gone, I had no choice or no reason not to dump this onto the first Mara attack I had. Although I honestly completely forgot about Bib's ability. Let's see if I can... Yep. So Bib Fortuna, he has 2 effects, actually. In round 1, I used him to focus one of my guys. And I'm typically just focus with him, set him on a terminal, have him play planning whenever I draw it. But turns out, you can also pitch a command card with him when any of your figures attack, if they're Scum units, and they add an extra damage to the attack. That is his illicit arms. So really, with a command card hand of 5 cards, even after Blade Storm, I could have just pitched something else, but I felt like this might be the only time Mara gets an attack, so I decided to go with that strategy, add the 1 damage from Blade Storm itself. And it is cool to see that card actually get played. Let's see. And of course, Fen already being tapped out of his focus, he wasn't as alluring of a target as the ATRT was, who was still hidden and had that extra bonus. So the ATRT ending on 2 life, I decide to Force Surge, which allows a Force user, such as Mara, to move up to 1 space at the end of her turn, and then have an adjacent opponent suffer 2 damage and a strain. Now, of course, the strain could be an extra damage, but there's no guarantee that Herbie would just let his figure die if I had 1 less damage on it, so he probably would have pitched the top card of his deck. So I needed to treat this just like a 2 damage finisher right here. Herbie, reasonably little bummed by seeing this, but I also get a little bummed out as I have to end. You see me play back and forth here. I had originally wanted to end in the corner down here with the extra movement point from looking for a fight. I wind up not using those last 2 points so that I can get the kill here, but I have to wind up leaving Mara exposed. Whatever spot I end in had to be one adjacent to where the ATRT was. So yeah, I wound up ending right there in the difficult terrain. I think because Force Surge lets you move 1 space, not gain 1 movement point. But I had the extra movement anyway, so either way, I end in there. Okay. Let's see, we have someone pointing out a spot. Yeah, we're just talking about the movement there. It looks like we have Fen activating and taking a shot across the range at Maul. Maul rolling great defense, but it's not going to be enough. Maul's going to take 4 damage from the attack. I think the Pierce 1 adds 1 more. Regardless, Maul is at his health limit, and this is where he would be dead if it weren't for his Sustained by Rage ability. So he's going to stay in play until he gets to make a turn. And then Fen retreating back into the deployment zone, going to make my figures come all the way to him, make me use all the movement points possible to chase after him. And like I said, Bib Fortuna just moving over 3. Looks like he could have focused someone there. He decided not to. Not sure if he maybe did some other action or double moved here, but looks like Hera going now. I'm going to take a shot at Maul. And this is one of the, where I made the, this is the point where Herbie makes his mistake, self-admitted, right after the fact. But whereas I was mistaking the ATRT round 1 and how it's massive and its movement worked, I, at this point, am even unsure as to why Hera's shooting at Maul, knowing that Maul is already being sustained by rage. So there's nothing he can really do to Maul, just add a few more damage. I look at these rolls and I go, okay, you know, you're going to deal 3 more damage. And then at that point, he calls out, I surge to stun Maul. And that is when we look at it. I was very confused as Hera doesn't have a surge to stun, but Covering Fire is in play. Covering Fire gives a surge to stun to all of your troopers, and I was unsure as to why Herbie was attacking in the first place, but once he revealed that, he explained, oh, he had thought that Hera was a trooper, or had kind of forgotten about that restriction, and thought that he could just send out Hera to stun Maul, to make sure, you know, as long as he rolled 1 surge, make sure that Maul wasn't going to be able to move and attack with his final activation. Try to make Maul useless there by sticking him there. So he kind of accidentally reveals his plan to me by a little too early jumping the gun and shooting with a non-trooper, getting the mistake of Covering Fire out there. So then he takes Hera and hides her back with all the rest of his figures. Now at this point he's got a lot of healthy figures. 3 of his 4 big attackers are all healthy. I have 3 of mine, but Mara has already gone. She's exposed. Terran is very slow. He also is not a brawler, so he doesn't get benefits from all of my command cards. And then Maul, who's running on a clock and going to die at the end of the round. So at this point, I know that I need to make some kind of play. I'm not sure what we're calling out here, but it looks like I decided to go with Afra. I pick up a crate with her. Trying to stall out some more of Herbie's activations before I commit to my last few activations with my power units. And I move Afra back towards the stash. I decide, okay, well, you know, she's a good backup attacker. She's not a brawler, she's not a force user, so she's more here for the command card support. In fact, I think I see what happened. Planning was excavated with Afra. So Afra on her turn, she spent it moving, but Afra had excavated. If you look at the top right, you can see in the remove from game pile, planning was excavated. So Bib must have played that for the 2nd round in a row. I see a lot of command cards in hand now. So it's all making sense why Bib decided not to, why Bib Fortuna didn't focus anyone else on his round. He just moved up to the terminal and played planning a 2nd time, removing it from the game with Afra's excavation ability. Allowing me to draw even more cards. So I've gotten almost the entire deck of my command cards in my hand already in the middle of round 2, which was nice. So that's why Bib didn't do much else. Afra just running the objectives. You know, she's kind of a backup attacker for later in the game, or some range support if I need it. But I think at this point I'm like, okay, I'm going to get some kills with my guys, but I'm going to need some of these. I'm not going to destroy his army with my army. I'm going to need to get some backup VPs somehow, and I think crates are going to be the way I'm going to do it. So that is how, or that's the reason why Afra just kind of moves in, moves out, like she did just there. So next we're going to see Herbie's Kotun activate, deciding where she's going to go. Looks like she's declaring an attack, or possibly not. She's changing what power token she gives. And it looks like she's getting a surge token and declaring an attack on Maul. Yeah, so this is the point where she gets the surge token. She decides to surge to stun Maul. hoping that I don't have anything in hand to remove a negative condition, and that Maul will basically have a dead turn. So that's what she meant. That's what he meant to do with Hera earlier on. So I go with Terran Malicos next, and at this point I throw out Force Rush. I'm actually kind of floundering at this point of the game. I don't know what... I have an idea for Maul, but I don't know what I'm going to do with Terran. I haven't decided which targets I'm going to try and take out on my opponent's side. I throw out Force Rush, knowing that earlier in the game, Herbie had almost decided to negate the looking for a fight. So I throw this out there, not even for the movement points. It turns out I don't think I even necessarily needed them. Or maybe I did. But I just threw that out there as a first thing, hoping that, you know, Herbie would try to negate it, and then I would still have several other options that I wanted to use. I had a take initiative in hand at this point, and I really wanted to take it back round 3 to press my advance. So I was hoping that he would mess up and just negate the next movement card he saw after seeing his huge figure get taken out so early by one attack. I was hoping that he would think that there's no way he can afford to take a second attack here. Unfortunately, he lets the Force Rush go through, and then I basically have that SpongeBob moment of Plankton going, okay, I didn't think I was going to get this far. I don't know what to do with these movement points. But in the end, I decided to move deep into Khotun zone and declare an attack on her. Of course, she has C-3PO next to her to give her the evade, but I'm like, it's a big, strong attacker. I do not want to waste an attack on 3PO here. So I just deal with the -1 evade. I go, okay, 2 reds. This should probably do a little bit of damage at least. And of course, I rolled double ones. So after everything's said and done, I wound up doing 1 damage to Khotun, and I think I play opportunistic. Kind of trying to bait the negation here again, but more so realizing that I also just blocked line of sight from Maul, who had a plan for, even though he was stunned. So again, really not sure what I'm doing here, but I eventually just move him up to Cassian and Fenn, trying to fake my opponent out. I did have a few things set up, I think, but trying to get my opponent, you know, a little worried about why Terran was up in everyone's face now. I basically had him between all the enemies that I wanted to actually fight and get damage on. So it looks like R2 gonna draw a card. He's just waiting for me to make my next move here. It looks like R2 draws a card and takes a shot at Mara. And gonna get a surge off, but not even gonna get enough accuracy to make the attack, or she is. Oh yeah, I guess R2 getting enough accuracy and being able to pierce. So 1 damage attack from R2, never hurts. And then it looks like we have a red die attack with an extra surge. Not sure who's making the red die. 2 red die. The black die. Is this a Terran attack? Okay. Terran attacking out of turn somehow. And then moving up. Okay, this is a Jabba the Hutt order hit. So Jabba, I guess I had VPs from killing the AT-RT, had 8 of them, and +1 from Jabba. I spent 2 of those points to have Jabba order hit. I get an okay attack off on Fenn, dealing 4 damage, but adding 2 with a surge, and blocked by 1 damage from Fenn. So I'm able to get Fenn up to mostly halfway dead. I open up the space for... Yeah, I decided to move over and just kind of open up the space for Maul to do whatever he wants to do. So yeah, Jabba the Hutt playing there and getting some key shot off on Fenn, getting him kind of wounded. We see C-3PO moving and trying to block some spaces here, focusing Khotun. And this is where I go with Maul, and the first thing I do is the worth every credit, which allows me to discard a harmful condition on Maul, gain 2 movement points, and if I get a kill this turn, I'm going to score an extra 2 VPs. And then Herbie calls out, yeah, I was, he was worried that I had something like this in hand, but he figured it was the best thing to do to try to stop Maul from doing anything. because of how devastating he is when he does get in close. So Maul can use those extra 2 movement points to great use. This being a 2-point card, it's not something that Herbie could really negate. Maybe if he had a few more spies on the list, he could have run Comms Disruption, but I did consider this beforehand, and I think Cassian's his only spy, so I knew I was safe here to play this. And then Lure of the Dark Side coming out. So this is what I had in my pocket here. I was worried that with the evade from C-3PO that I would be in a bad spot if I just wound up striking out at Kotun. So I have Kotun gain 2 power tokens, and then spend both one of those tokens and a focus to attack Fen. Sicking Harvey's figures against him, negating that focus here. It's a very powerful card, Lure of the Dark Side. So we see some pitiful rolls here from Kotun. Okay, well, not too pitiful. The blues are not rolling very well. So I decide to reroll 1 because Kotun has Professional. And I reroll the other blue as well and advance those attack rolls by quite a bit. Kotun, of course, having several abilities that interact with power tokens, meaning that using Lure of the Dark Side on a focused Kotun adds a lot of potential for a lot of power here. I think I even thought about shooting into Cassian and trying to get him close to defeated all at once, especially since he hadn't gone. However, I was worried that even if a Kotun attack did 6, 7, 8 damage to Cassian, Cassian has a good health pool, I believe. For his 6 points, he's got 10 health. And I was worried that Kotun probably wasn't going to one-shot Cassian. That what I have next for Maul in mind would not be enough either. That Cassian could roll a dodge or something else, and he's going to get an attack or 2 off anyways. So I decide to shoot into Fen and try to finish off what's already a pretty close to done deal. So yeah, we see Fen getting knocked off the board. We see my VPs going up to 15. Looks like worth every credit VPs were maybe forgotten about, which is interesting. That definitely would have mattered. Not exactly, but would have maybe mattered later in the game. But then Dying Lunge coming out. So now me going in with an attack on Maul and the end part of Lure of the Dark Side being so strong once you convince one of your opponent's figures to attack one of their friends, they can't take the mental strain and they do suffer 2 strain damage. So Kotun here now at 3 damage, and I just go on top of that by playing Dying Lunge, because now that Maul is activated, he's going to leave the field since he has so much damage on him. As he decides to leave, since he suffered damage equal to his health, I play Dying Lunge. So he'll be defeated after this attack, but he does get to move 2 and make an attack. So Kotun getting a very good dodge roll here. I think I actually forgot about the distracting bonus. Maybe should have gone for Cassian. But I go out with Maul with a focused attack, getting 5, 6 damage and a Surge Cross. Of course, 3 that getting negated, so Kotun going to take 3. Looks like I had a reroll from Darksaber. Not going to change the outcome, though. So Kotun going to take 3 damage, and Maul going to leave the field, giving Herbie 6 VPs. It looks like Herbie still had both Gideon and Cassian to activate. So Gideon going to go ahead and focus Cassian, and then take a shot at Terran, because why not? Terran not going to roll a great defense here. Going to take 3 damage from the attack. And of course, small attacks like that can pile up over time. And then I think we're having Cassian activate. He decides to spend his focus. Oh no, I guess, not sure what that was. Okay. Cassian going here, spending his power token, shooting at Terran here. Going to get 5, 6, 3 damage across. Rerolling, or adding another die here because he's focused. So it looks like 7, 6 damage across. Yeah, Terran Malicos down to 3 health here. And let's see what else is going on. And then he uses Cassian's second ability, It Will Be Alright. This comes into play when you can give Cassian a free movement or free extra attack by defeating one of your friendly allies in 2 spaces. So he just says, alright, C-3PO, time to go. It's apparently from a scene in the Rogue One movie. He just shoots an ally so that they can't go to the enemy side and give information. I guess he got a little shook after seeing Lord of the Dark Side and Kotun turning against him for a minute in this match. But C-3PO gets taken out. I get 2 VPs for that, so I'm happy for that. But of course, Cassian going to get a second shot here. So not the greatest rolls here, but it is 3 damage, which is just enough to get Terran out of the match. I think Terran would have had to roll a triple block to stop this attack from killing. So Herbie going to, of course, get some more VPs off of this kill. And he has now taken out 3 of my 4 big attackers in my army. And that just leaves Mara Jade, who's kind of far away from the action at the moment. Of course, Gideon did help contribute to that kill, so I'm kind of worried about him getting an attack and actually getting a surge off, doing 3 to 5 damage on Mara. And Kotun, also being a worry, and Hera being a backup attacker. Mara is probably not going to be able to take out all 3 of these guys, or all 4 of these guys. Even probably not get Kotun and Cassian. And as you can see, the VPs are still kind of on the lower end. We're less than halfway through our VPs to 40. And this is the end of round 2. It's not looking the greatest for me at this point. And this is when we reset for round 3. Covering fire, finally going to the discard pile, and then I'm going to black market Death Blow. So I say yes, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to throw it in my hand, that'll add a little damage later on. So take initiative going back to Herbie. Then I go in with take initiative, I want to steal that back. And of course the negation coming out that I had tried so hard to bait early in the game. So Herbie protecting his initiative, making sure he's going to get to go first and do whatever it is that he is going to try and do here to stop my 1 competent attacker remaining, I would say. So looks like Kotun going first, going to give herself a power token and take a strong shot on Mara, adding element of surprise, so Mara's not even going to get to block. But of course, this is when I throw out my negation. I think we're at the point in the game where I go, even if Herbie were to take initiative me, we're near the end of the match here, I think I need to protect Mara as much as I can and get as much juice out of her as possible. This maybe wasn't the best play. Maybe I should have let this resolve, because I know Kotun's going to spend a power token on this attack, and Dead Precise is going to make it so that I don't get a dodge here. So even if Mara rolled a dodge, it would just be a blank side. So I go, well, it's 1 in 3 chances I roll blank, and the other sides are not going to be game changers. Maybe I should have saved the negate. I don't know. I'm not sure on this particular attack. Normally I would have, but it doesn't matter too much. I rolled the blank anyways. Luckily, Kotun's not focused, but she does get a couple of rerolls here from Professional and Dead Precise. So it looks like I'm going to take 3, 4, 5 damage here. Hera going to add an extra damage with Call the Shots. And Mara going to go straight up to 7 damage, 4 away from death. And Kotun going to retreat a little bit, get protected just by her friends, and stay near the terminal. Alright, so Mara going out. Deciding on the positioning here. Looks like I had accidentally thrown a focus on her. I was wondering about that when I declared the attack. So now I'm going to declare the attack on Kotun, and I think I had a way to get a second parting blow on Cassian later. But I go, no, I need to make sure that Kotun dies here. Mara is not always going to roll enough damage for this kind of kill, so I need to make sure that this happens. So I play Death Blow. It's going to add 2 to the damage of the attack. I roll way too much damage here, 5, 7 damage. I didn't need the Death Blow, but it is good that I had it there. So I'm going to kill off Kotun, finish her off, get 7 victory points. And then I rush on over close to Cassian, or Hera. I guess I'm trying to one-shot Hera versus kill off Cassian. So I go for a parting blow. Looks like I'm missing a command card here. Okay, if we look over in the command window, it looks like I had played Looking for a Fight on Excavate with Afra here. So I'd excavated looking for a fight with Afra. And if you look in the player 1 command window, you can see that. So Mara getting that extra movement point, and then getting an extra power token, and then looking for a fight, not for a movement point, but to push Hera, and before the push, deciding to play Parting Blow to get an extra attack off. And I think this is twofold. One, I think this is the last attack Mara's going to get this game. Two, I can sit comfy next to the terminal and make Cassian come to me if he's going to do anything afterwards. And three, there is a good chance that she could wind up one-shotting Hera here. So I add the damage token, roll my damage, reroll the blue for no effects. And I do get the kill here. 2, 4, 5, 6, 8. Yep, 7 damage, just enough to take out Hera, which is nice. I'd actually recalled her not still being in the game, or her still being in the game in my recollection before reviewing this, so I guess I did get the Hera kill, going up to 30 VPs. Now, in retrospect, it looks like I forgot the 2 VPs from Worth Every Credit, possibly. But I do have an interesting interaction here. So now Mara's in play, she's stunned, she's on the enemy terminal, she's taking her turn. She's not going to be able to order hit with Jabba. We can see looking for the fight be thrown into the exit game pile over on the right after being used while excavated. So the enemy going to go with R2, going to pick up a crate and start moving back. I think Gideon gave him some extra movement points or something. Not sure how he moved so far. Or maybe he had played Urgency. Then my Bib Fortuna going to go, and we're basically going mad dashing for the crates at this point. So then the Herbie going to go with Cassian, take a shot at Mara, and I roll blank a second time in the match, 2 out of 2. Rolling these middling rolls for Cassian, still enough with the power token to do 4 damage and finish off Mara. Herbie going to celebrate this, getting him to 30 points. We're now tied up. And at this point, I'm kind of worried. Herbie still has Cassian as a good attacker. He's got Gideon, who can get off an all-right attack as a sub-attacker. And I'm facing him off with Doc Afra and Bib Fortuna. But what I do realize is I have good progress on getting a couple of the crates. And while R2 might be able to get there in another turn or two with Gideon's help, I don't see Herbie getting enough crates to his deployment zone before I do to win the match. But he goes with Cassian towards the crate. He's going to try and grab it next turn. And now I do something interesting. I'm activating Jabba the Hutt. And I decide to order hit on Dr. Afra. I had counted out the number of spaces between the stash and Afra and the next crate and found that number to be 7. And order hit lets you make an attack with somebody else and then move them up to 2 spaces or gain 2 movement points. Jabba the Hutt ability. But it costs 2 VPs. But calculating it, I guess the worth every credit change would have mattered here, but without thinking about the worth every credit mistake, with Jabba the Hutt, you spend 2 VPs, and I would have gone from 30 to 28, which I do here. Yep. And then Afra, I get to declare an attack with Afra. I don't think anyone's in line of sight. Even if they are, I'm not interested in that attack so much. So I skip the attack. And then you see I basically move Afra up 1 to the stash and then back down diagonal, using the 2 movement points from order to hit on Jabba. Now, when I do decide to go with Afra, she is exactly 5 spaces away from picking up the next crate. And because I ordered hit here, I will be able to pick up that crate with my action, my second action on Afra, instead of needing to spend it to move further. So I save an entire activation of racing the crate back to the deployment zone. And it could save an entire activation, and at this point we're basically racing crates here. But the interesting thing is, being at 30 VPs, I needed 2.5 crates to win because there were 4 VPs each. But by going down in 2 VPs to get one of the crates faster, I make it so that I need exactly 3 crates to win the game. and I figured I'm not going to get any more kills at this point. There's no difference between 2.5 crates and 3 crates. I just need to get 3 crates. So I lost 2 VPs in order to gain 2 VPs, or to gain 4 VPs, and I thought that was an interesting use of Java's order hit here, and spending the thing you're trying to get enough of the thing to win, that being the VPs. So I mean, at this point we just see characters moving back and forth. I go with Afra, grab the crate, and 1 activation. We reset to round 4. I think we draw the last cards in our deck. Note that I do play a lot of movement cards, but most of them, except Opportunistic, are not going to be playable by Afra because she's not a brawler or a force user. At this point, I do excavate Opportunistic, so if any of my opponents receive damage, I can activate that and give Afra or Bib perhaps 3 movement points towards the objective. But then I go with Afra. I double move. I just don't know where to put her afterwards, but I get the crate, get 4 VPs. That's what I'm interested in. Hide her behind Big Java. And my opponent going to play Urgency on R2 at this point, and Heart of Freedom to give R2 an astounding 7 movement points. He runs up and takes a shot at Bib Fortuna in a gambit to stun him so that I can't get to the finish line and close out this game that quickly. So I roll a block, he rolls 1 damage. The Surge, not going to be able to stun because he can't get any damage across. So yeah, we just call it there. I run the 6 spaces to the movement deployment zone, drop off the crate, and win the game because Hire 2 all out great in spirit there, trying to stop me from winning. It's a very R2 thing to do, to run in there and do something crazy like that. Not quite enough to stop it. I think Cassian might have been a better play here to run down and try and shoot Bib to death, but I can see how the R2 stopping would have been better and given Herbie a little more time too. So good game played on both sides. This was very close. I made a lot of mistakes early in the game, and Herbie made his big mistake with Hera later on. But again, overall, I think this was a great game, and I think it was, for the most part, well played. I think we both learned a few things. Herbie learned about the restrictions on his covering fire, and I learned that the ATRT is a massive figure and is actually extremely mobile and needs to be thought about a lot more. I mean, I was thinking about it. I just thought the wrong things and thought that I was a lot safer than I was. You're never safe from this thing, and so it's actually surprising that we don't see it as much as we do. But alright, I hope you guys all enjoyed this game log review. If you'd like to see more of these, please head over to the IA Command channel, where TV Boy presents these, I would say, almost weekly. I don't know, he has his own schedule of when he likes to post. It's usually when things are happening in the competitive scene a lot more. But I wanted to see a few lesser units that were getting shown off here. And I wanted to show a game with my favorite list that I try to run and see if I can improve anyhow, being the Scum Force users. So I do actually have a game over there. If you look up Scum Force users on the IA Command channel, there's a game of me using this list in the playtesting season against a Mandalorian list. So if you're interested in that, go to the IA Command YouTube channel. Alright guys, stay frosty. This is the Second Flock, out.